Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes. Gracias por acompañarnos en Beyond the Mic Podcast. Estamos en vivo y por demanda popular, claro que sí. Nuestro invitado que tuvimos, que fue la semana pasada, antepasada, Juan Alaniz está con nosotros. Juan Alaniz es life coach, él fue pastor, él fue también capellán del equipo de béisbol de Arthur de Houston y pues coach de básquetbol por mucho tiempo. Primero que nada, Juan, ¿cómo estás, Juan?
Muy bien, Francisco. ¿Cómo estás tú?
Doing very well. We're going to do this in English. We'll do it in Spanish next time.
Yeah, you tease the people there.
No, but we'll do it bilingual. So
Yeah,
last time we did it in English, it worked out very well. But Juan was also a Spanish teacher, so he knows his Spanish.
yeah.
Again, Juan, thank you very much for joining us. We're live, so we're waiting for some people to join in what is this podcast Beyond the Mic. We've had somewhat of a success on this podcast. People are watching, and it's been very fun to go along with it. And I'm glad you are part of it, Juan. So thank you again for accepting the invitation. And also, you're one of the sponsors of Beyond the Mic podcast as your efforts
Mhm.
grow and grow even more. And now with technology, we'll learn about what kind of services Juan can offer you in regards to being a life coach, being a mentor, among many other things. But Juan, again, thank you very much for being with us. Again, by popular demand, we asked you to come back on the podcast because the first one was very successful in all the topics that you covered. Even some people were saying we must have a pencil and paper to take notes on what Juan has
Mhm.
to offer us. So, Juan, we talked a little bit about you being a former pastor, being a life coach, being a basketball coach on the court, very successful, a Spanish teacher, a business owner, real estate, and among many things. What do you enjoy the most about everything that you do?
Uh, just getting an opportunity to meet people from all the different aspects of life, meeting entrepreneurs, meeting teachers, meeting coaches, and people in the pastoral call, and of course, having worked with the Astros, and it's just university level, and then just common people like who I was and when we were growing up. So the whole spectrum, it's just amazing how many different types of people you get to meet. And that's to me the most beautiful part of what I do is that I get to meet God's beautiful creation, people. He calls it the crown of his creation. And that's the beauty of what I've been a part of.
Now it's been very amazing watching you and meeting you, and of course we met you when you were with the Astros, and you would go up to our broadcast booth and talk about the message to everybody, not just the players, but everyone around you. Uh,
Mhm.
we talked last time about marriage. That was a very good topic that people really were interested in. What do you got for us today? What's the topic? What are we going to be talking about today?
Well, we're going to talk specifically about three words. Uh, the byproduct of a great marriage is a word called blessings. And you bless people with your time, your talent, and your treasure. Because as I would say to people, you are blessed to bless others. You are loved to love others. And in what I do as a pastor is you're saved to save others. And mainly save others from themselves and from the relationships that they grew up with. That's a very important thing to understand is that relationships are everything, and they are going to be the most amazing blessing, or they could be an amazing obstacle for you and your health.
And now,
And
are you talking about
so,
relationships in regards to marriage or relationships in regards to
yeah,
that surrounds us?
well, the primary one being marriage, then the secondary one being the children, then
Mhm.
you have your parents, then you have your siblings, right?
Right.
Then you have those in your profession. And all those relationships, as we talked about God in the rest last time, should be reconciled relationships, edifying relationships, and relationships with people who say to you, Francisco, I want to learn from you. And then you say to them, I want to learn from you.
with no
And you, huh? Was
without
what?
grudges.
With no grudges, because you're going to learn from the mistakes they've made, and they're going to learn from the mistakes you've made, so that we can avoid having mistakes in our lives. And
You know, one
you
thing
know,
that, now that you bring that up, I don't want to get too much out of the subject, but we all think we know the formula to living a perfect life, and the reality is that we really don't know. But the more we know of others, and the more we know of our mistakes, I think, so you can elaborate on this. I guess we paved the road to maybe a better life in every which way, whether it's health, financially, psychologically. But there is no one way of doing things. I guess that's what I get from your initial conversation.
well, the one thing that is the most common thing for everyone, and I don't, it does not matter where you're from in the world, is that you are supposed to be in healthy relationships. So when people call me, people come to me, I ask questions, I listen, and the first thing I want to know is, where is there something missing? Which relationship is the one that has now created obstacles in their lives? Because that's what life is about. I mean, we would not be here right now on this platform if we didn't like each other, would we?
Sometimes. No. But we're talking to Juan Alaniz. For those of you who just joined us, Juan is a life coach. He's been a basketball coach, teacher, tennis instructor. I mean, business owner, uh, doing business in real estate. So from all walks of life, if you want to reach Juan, there's his email right there. But also, he has a YouTube channel with a lot of these messages, life coach messages that he gives out. So if you want to reach Juan, you can ask questions here. So we're live as of this now, as of this moment. But Juan has his email right there, Juan and musicandmessage.org, or you can follow him on making connections with Juan Alaniz. Juan, very interesting. What we're talking about. I don't want to deviate from what
Mhm.
we're talking about, but I want people to know who you are and where to find you. And so go on. You're talking about this relationship, specifically being marriage, the most important one.
Yeah, and that is the one place where two become one. When I do wedding ceremonies and I prepare the couple for that ceremony, I explain to them that uh, two, as the Lord says it, uh, one plus one equals one. Okay, not one plus one equals two. So
Like,
one plus one equals one.
like 2 4 6 equals two. That's a double play. Right.
That's baseball language.
Three or 6 4 3. But no,
Yeah.
but you're right. I'll say just trying to be a little funny here, but 1 plus 1 equals 1.
One plus one equals one because the two become one. And so people get into marriages and they actually do the math equation, one plus one equals two. So they become two different people, uh, with two different ideas and two different approaches. And before you know it, they become a toxic relationship, a dysfunctional relationship that impacts other people's lives, not just the children, but it begins to impact other extended family members and so on and so forth.
And you say the word toxic. I mean, with social media, sometimes we may find it funny, but in reality, there's a lot of truth to some of the jokes. For instance, in Spanish, they say, "Ahí viene la tóxica," or entonces, I mean, that's
Yeah.
hard, even if you want to make fun of it. But I mean,
No, no, and it is. And
it,
go
it,
ahead.
it's a harsh joke. I mean, but sometimes it's the reality.
But we got to make sure that we don't make it feminine. It's not always la tóxica.
Exactly. Yeah, we
It,
don't know. Yeah,
it could be el tóxico, right?
exactly.
Because we know guys who are also just as toxic as women. Uh, but it's because they bring with them this toxicity that they have from other relationships. And so we want to make sure we understand what we're going to talk about today, because these three words, la dea, okay, I use the three words because they're famous, la dea or DEA, The DEA is famously known as the Drug Enforcement Administration. In 1973, it was established
Exactly.
because there was such an issue with illicit drug use and the trafficking of drugs, especially from Colombia and Mexico. And so the United States established the DEA, or La DEA, they say it in Spanish. But uh, it's the growing manufacturing and distribution of these substances. And so they had to come up with a way to curb it, to keep it from continuing to become such a big factor in
Uh,
the lives of so many people. And so the three main illicit drugs are cocaine, heroin, meth. There's a lot of other ones, of course. And then you have licit drugs, drugs that people can buy over the counter and can buy at a store, like alcohol. And then you have ibuprofen, caffeine, so on and so forth. And then you have the prescribed drugs, like the opioids. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And my idea, Francisco, is that people would learn enough and apply enough so that they're not out and about wasting money.
uh-huh. Tell me about that.
Okay, wasting money with therapists. I have my master's in counseling psychology. I went through the process of learning what therapy is, and my professors at the university where I was were all practicing therapists. And the interesting thing about it is that they each needed their own therapist, and I thought, to me, that was kind of odd. It was weird that you would need a therapist. You're supposed to have it together if you're talking with me about me getting it together.
So did they have a therapist in reality, or
Yeah, in reality, yeah.
and they were master
What
degree?
They have their masters, they have their doctorates, you know. But what we're going to talk about is for everyone. It doesn't matter your level of education, your socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter. We all are going to be impacted by these three words at one time or another. Okay. And so Tadea, uh, the way we're going to use it today, it stands for depression, estress, because I'm going to do it Spanglish or Tex Mex. Okay. So depression, stress, and anxiety.
Sorry. Now,
Anxiety. And
let's
those,
correct me if I'm wrong,
uh-huh.
but depression, stress, and anxiety. I mean, in all my years in life, I don't know if I was just around, but those are three words that for me they become very familiar in the last 20 years, I would say. I mean, I don't know if before that. Now there's
Hmm.
a lot of drugs for it. There's a lot of uh,
Hmm.
counselors for it. But I mean, again, I don't want to deviate myself from the topic, but it's something I didn't start hearing a lot until about 20 years ago.
Yeah, and it's because people begin to be informed more. Okay, I mean, if you look at it in the 2000s, when the internet started coming around, and then you've got all the social media, we were now exposed to things that exacerbated the problem.
Uh huh.
Because now I didn't only just go to my buddy Francisco, I was now going to my buddy Jim in New York, and in LA, Roberto was over there. And so, you know what I'm saying? And I'm hearing things from people that I shouldn't be hearing. Uh, and so it created a lot of dysfunctionalism in the information world where people were now informed. And all you got to do is get on YouTube, like I was today, and I
Uh-huh.
go, wow, if I didn't know what I know, I would fall for that stuff.
Okay, okay, I see. So there's
You
a
know what
lot
I'm
of
saying?
information that gets into our heads, and we just don't process everything at the same time, huh?
It becomes confusing, and everybody has answers for everything. But uh, what I tell people is, I know what I know because I've learned it from the one who knows everything. He doesn't only know everything, he explains everything. Okay, so three concepts, like the concept that I wanted to share uh, to today, aside from the ones that we covered last time, but there's a concept that's very important. And you being in professional sports and being that closely tied to people in professional sports and at the Division I level at University of Arizona, these are things that they have to keep in mind at all times. And so, the first tool that you should have in your pocket at all times, and you should use at all times, is this one. If you know why you win twice.
Uh,
Okay,
Explícame.
because you won, and then you go back and you go, okay, why did we win? Oh, so we want to repeat that win.
Exactly.
If you know why you lost, you win.
Because you know, you understand why you lost.
And you're not going to do that. You're not going to repeat that. Got it?
Uh-huh.
And as a coach, I would have long sessions with my players after a game, the next day in practice, breaking it down, analyzing to make certain that we knew why we won if we won, and we knew why we lost if we lost.
Same thing in life. So you apply that
Right?
to life.
Yeah. So you apply it in life and you go, okay, my mom and dad and I are not getting along. I need to know why we're not getting along.
Uh-huh.
And so you got to go find out. Because if not, you're going to have a relationship with your mom and dad that's going to, and I've seen it, unfortunately, for 20, 30, 40 years,
You gotta be
you
straight.
know? And so what I do is I spend time explaining to people, right? Because conversely, if you don't know why you win, you lose. And if you don't know why you lose two
Lose
times.
prize, huh?
Got it? So you always want to be healthy. And so it's important that you, when you're meditating, you're thinking, you go, okay, why did this work so good? I want to know because I want to repeat it,
Because you add it, huh?
right?
That's I guess that's why failure, when you fail once or twice or three times, it shouldn't discourage you from keep trying or keep trying to find out. In sports, obviously it's
Yeah,
to win, but in life it's trying to make good with your family or with your wife or with your kids, and at work it's maybe getting the project done next time. So it applies
yeah.
to everything.
Well, yeah, and especially in those relationships, like marriage and children and parents and brothers and sisters, because that's what you spend most of your time with,
Exactly.
right?
Now
So that's
let me stop you there. If whoever's watching has any question, Genaro Mirabal is watching in Houston, Texas. Saludos, Genaro. If you don't want to ask questions here on the live chat, you can always find Juan at musicandmessage.org. Or if you have a general question that you want to ask here on the live chat, we'll put them up. Larissa dice saludos. So that's um that's our oops. That's a live
yeah,
chat right there. But if you have any questions, go ahead and Juan will answer them. Sorry to interrupt, Juan, but I just wanted to let people who are watching know that they're able to
mhm.
ask questions. But then you were saying, go ahead, uh huh.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is a tool that you should carry with you wherever you go, and apply that to whether you buy a good car or a bad car, a home, or it's something that's applicable to everything in life, but most importantly to our relationships in our home. Okay, and then the troubleshooting is what you use this for,
Yeah,
right? I mean, as an investor, we bought homes, we bought businesses, and we've dealt with electricians, plumbers, and they always do troubleshooting. Well,
exactly.
people are great at doing troubleshooting with inanimate objects, inanimate things, things that don't have life. But we're horrible at troubleshooting with our relationships,
Hmm.
you know? And you want to be, and in those two words that we used before, you want to be in a place where there's peace and there's joy. You know what I'm saying? I
Exactly.
mean, we have three grandchildren, and I marvel at how much peace and joy they are living right now. They're supposed to be living peace and joy.
So, in
Uh,
order for you not to transmit whatever negative there is, you work towards building positive and a win-win situation, or last win situation where it'll affect, like you're saying, your grandchildren.
oh, it will. Oh, yeah, because that's where people fly off the handle. You
Exactly.
know, when a 1.5-year-old is crying or a 3-year-old is asking for something, and people say things that they should not be exposed to,
Exactly.
you know? And so there has to be peace and joy in the home. And that is the objective. When I sit down with people and we go over things, I said, this is my objective, is to bring peace and joy into your home. And so I explained to them that the way you do it is you establish priorities, and then those priorities will bring order, and then that order brings peace. And because there's peace, now you will experience the joy. And I call it pop joy. Priorities, order, peace equals joy. And so your priority in your marriage has to be, we are going to be reconciled. We are going to edify each other. We are going to be learning from the mistakes of those marriages, because we don't want to go there. We don't want to end up where they ended up.
And you know what? You just mentioned the word edifying, which the last conversation we had, edifying was uh, it has a great impact because
Hmm.
you edify each other, and that was a very good word. I think it was from carne de res.
Right. It's the E.
Yeah, but edifying, it's just build each other. It's so
Oh, yeah.
sad when there's jealousy within the couple. What's that?
Yeah.
Jealousy in regards, not because you're looking at another man or another woman. Jealousy in regards because your partner is being successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've seen that. And, but it should be, you go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, the first words out of your mouth should be, baby, you're amazing. I love you. You're awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. Words like those are words that help build the relationship instead of looking for negative words, you
Exactly.
know? And so people do. They actually do work on being negative, and that's why they're negative. So I tell people, you have an opportunity to work on being positive and, you know, not condemning yourself by what you say. Because when people say bad things, they think they're condemning other people. They're basically condemning themselves. Yeah,
Okay,
you know.
Lisa has a question. She
Mhm.
wants to know when you started living bajo el mandato divino, and how
Uh-huh.
was life before? O sea, because we all have a testimony, and I think
Yeah.
off the air years ago when I met you, you did
Hmm.
mention it to me. You do talk about it. So let's not take a break from what you're saying, but tell me
Uh-huh.
about what you're teaching us, what your personal experience was, if you want.
Yeah, and this is why the benefit that I have of being also a tennis instructor, I have my professional license for tennis. The worst person to teach a tennis lesson to is someone who has developed incredibly bad habits by trying to teach themselves tennis on their own. And so they have the wrong grips, the wrong form, the wrong stance. And to break those habits, it takes a long time. But then I've had students come to me and I ask them, how many years have you been playing tennis? And they go, never. I've never even touched a racket. I get excited because I don't have to break their habits.
You
But
create.
right, so you're creating from the very bottom, and it works great. And I did that with a young man here from Memorial High School. His name is Luke. He came to me as a freshman, and he says, "My goal is to make the varsity tennis team at Memorial High." And I said, "Okay, what experience do you have with tennis?" He goes, "Coach, I've never played tennis in my life." And I got excited. It just so happened that the young man was super athletic. He's now studying at the University of Texas A&M. And so he texted me his junior year after we had a year and a half of lessons. And he goes, Coach, I made the team at Memorial. He made the team,
The
you
varsity.
know, the varsity team, which is one of the top ranked varsity teams in the state of Texas.
Hey, Juan,
And
so people
so,
can reach you. I mean, for tennis lessons,
yeah.
for basketball, I know you on the free throws. You're very good. You have a great
Uh,
system, and obviously as a life coach. But you can find Juan on YouTube on making connections with Juan Alaniz. No, that's very interesting, and I'm glad you're talking about this because it shows that you're applying the knowledge or the experience you've gathered to every
Mhm.
aspect of life.
Yeah. And so now that's a long story, Larissa, but here's the answer. I had developed a lot of bad habits. I
Okay,
grew up in a family, in a culture that really, and I'm just going to be straight up honest, that teaches men to disregard the woman. And so Josie and I got married. For 8 years, I disregarded Josie. Okay. But I had learned those patterns. I had envy, I had jealousy in me. I was not a very good guy, but the worst part of me was that I had the impression of a woman that she was supposed to be used for my life as opposed to me serving her,
that's very strong.
right? And it impacted me when I began to learn the spiritual aspect of it, which was this is a woman, she is sacred, and this is the way you're supposed to love her. And I learned that. And then the practical part of it was okay, how do I do it? And so these things that I teach couples in the last, since I retired, my wife retired, we've been doing it together. But before that, I would do it by myself. And we sit with couples and we explain to them, listen, you're going to continue to butt heads. It's going to cost you a lot of money if you do not listen to how it is that your role as a man and your role as a woman is supposed to fit in this thing called marriage. But these things that we're going over are fundamentals to help prepare them. Remember, we talked about the GTS compared to the GPS?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
GPS, the location, yeah,
yeah, the global location and system. But in the GPS is to get you to a place safely in the quickest way possible. Okay, that's what why we use a GPS. I use it today. But the GTS is the same idea. Get you to a safe place in relationships the fastest way possible. And that is when you share your gifts with each other, your talents with each other, and then the S. Let's see if you remember, Francisco. What was the S?
I don't remember. Let me look at my notes.
Skills.
Oh, skills, yes.
Yeah, yeah. We all have gifts, we all have talents, but the skills, I mean, you've been watching the World Series,
Yeah, very closely, to be honest with you.
right? And the last few years with the Astros, I mean, how does a Jose Altuve make it to the major league when he's 5'6"?
Yeah, he's got skills, yeah.
Yeah, he's not only gifted and talented, but boy, does he have the torque, the torque with his hips and everything, and to hit the ball that far, that small, that's some real skill there,
Exactly.
right? And so, Freddie Freeman right now, and you've got the Oscar, who I used to sit with there at the in the tunnels every time the Oscar came in and visited the Astros. Yeah, just an amazing young man. I look at him and I go, wow, that guy's going to be successful in everything in life. What an attitude. He'd be the first one to sit there and want to learn about what the Lord had to say to him, you know. But yeah, that GTS in the carne de res, you put those together, and then you know the other thing that we talked last time was about the lead, and it was kind of cut off a little bit, but lead is LEAD, and the husband is supposed to lead, okay? And the
Now,
way that a husband
let
leads.
me hold you there. So you talked about your story. It's great. So I'm glad you share that. I'm glad you
Mhm,
shared it, and I'm glad you came out with it because now you give us a better idea that it is not. I mean, I don't want to say it in a bad way, but it's not BS what you're talking about. It's you have learned from it and you have grown from it, and you are now teaching.
mhm.
Okay, we'll talk about lead now, huh?
Yeah, and we're living it. You're living it with your grandchildren when you eventually will have. Uh, and there's nothing better than to live this peace and this joy with your immediate family. And so the lead is the LEAD, and the husband is called to lead. And the L stands for listen. Okay.
Okay.
And who are we supposed to listen to first?
Um, God,
And then
ourselves, and then
no. Francisco.
no, our
uh,
partner.
Our wives, yeah, our wives. I know you knew the answer, but yeah, our wives. And so, I mean, I was horrible at doing that. I was always talking and talking and talking over Josie and talking to Josie and talking at Josie. I didn't know that I was supposed to listen, right? And then the E is to edify. You build her up, build her up, build her up.
I like
Okay.
that word a lot, but I like the fact of edifying, because
Yeah.
even Larissa tells me, hey, you are this person, I'm this person, and Isabella is this person, let's all build within each other and make
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. That's why it was so funny last time we were here. And and Isabella's telling you, okay, dad, remember dad, okay, dad, but she wasn't saying it in a disrespectful way. She was building you up
Exactly, yes.
because she knows that what you do well, and you didn't take it defensively.
No, no,
That to me told me, okay, they've got a great relationship because, Isabella's going into this. She wants to be a professional in doing this kind of media and recording and that kind of stuff. And so, and I know Larissa is as sharp as they come. So it's important that we listen to them. Well, I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't taught that. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
so uh, the A is a gentle and respectful way. You ask permission to ask permission to ask a question. So you ask permission to ask a question. So is it okay if I say this? Or is it okay if I ask you this question? That drops the guards down as opposed to just throwing things at people, throwing darts, throwing darts. No, no, no. Is it okay if
it's
I
not a
ask a
curveball
question?
instead of a fastball.
And that's very important to establishing a good relationship, and as a coach, you see the managers, you go out there and you see them talking to the pitchers and, you know, that's the difference between a great manager and a regular manager is that you see that the manager respects them, huh?
And and listens to that. And
Yeah. And he
well,
listens to these guys.
ex-
Yeah. But then you get the privilege of doing the D. That's LEAD. The D is discipleship or teaching them to obey, you know, and you want them to come to you as the head of a household, as the man, as the husband, as the father, and say, hey, honey, I got a situation happening here. What do you think about this? You know?
exactly.
And so you're ready, you're there, but that you've earned the respect by listening, edifying, and asking for permission to ask a question. You've earned the respect to give answers to the questions they will come and bring to you. So that's those are three tools that I just want to make sure you keep in mind: the carne de res, the GTS, the lead, because the thing that results from not doing that, and write this word down, it is bitterness.
Bitter.
People get embittered. Embittered means that the heart gets hard. Okay. And this word right here is the word that is the basis for those three words we're going to talk about: depression, stress, and anxiety. Okay. When bitterness enters a person, that's poison on the inside. And it's because they're not eating carne de res. Okay. They don't have a GTS and they don't have an example of someone who leads,
Now,
someone who listens
whoever's
to them.
came into the podcast right now, when Juan means carne de res or GTS, GPS, you gotta listen to it from the beginning. So or you gotta go back to the first podcast we did, which was very interesting. But now
Mhm.
Larissa it says, but it's good to listen to us first, and we must know why we are here, what the reasons or motivations of our actions, according with God's direction. That is why we need to listen to us and then listen to others to understand them too. Yeah, that's like a self conversation, but
Yeah. And I think that listening to us, she's talking about the wife. Is that what we're talking about?
no, I think
Because
she's talking about listening to. Uh,
you and me right now?
no, no, me on my own and her on her own. I said, talk
Yeah.
to yourself and be honest with you. I guess that's what you're saying. Be really honest with
hmm
you. Don't try to avoid things
Yeah.
or go around things, but be honest with you.
Well, the part that she says we first must know who we are,
Exactly.
right? And yeah, you're right, Larissa. At one time, I didn't know who I was. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was this guy, and I wanted to continue to be that guy. But that guy continued to have conflicts, especially with females, you know, and with friends and so on and so forth. But when you establish who you are and you know who you are, then you have that word called security, and you're secure.
Exactly.
I was very insecure. And so you have a lot of insecure people engaging with insecure people, and it creates dysfunctional relationships,
Toxicity. El tóxico.
toxicity, el tóxico, ahí viene el tóxico, cuidado con el tóxico. Uh, but you know that you want to stay away from that word bitterness. Okay, someone asked me, and in this case, they used my title as a pastor. Pastor, what causes bitterness? Okay, and what causes bitterness? It's not what I say; it's what he says. It's hypocrisy. Got it?
Going back to
Hypoc.
being honest with yourself or being honest.
Yeah. And so the worst thing people do is they pretend to be somebody in this situation, and then somebody sees them at a store degrading somebody, and they go, "Oh man," and just get it leaves a real bad taste in their mouth. You know, says you were really nice over here, and then over here you're horrible, and they witness that. You know, and you being around professional athletes, you know that, right?
Ahí viene el Juan. Vámonos.
Yeah. I mean, is there a person who you said, man, this guy's amazing on the field. He's amazing in the dugout. He's amazing in life. And you see that consistency in them. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And so that's important to know, to ask those questions of people and say, are you carrying something? Are there things that have embittered you,
Exactly.
that have left a bad taste in your mouth? And so we want to stay away from that, so that we can engage in what are called safe and healthy relationships, you know? And so those three words can, and this is a very important thing. And I'm going to say it, it could be in the minds of people very controversial. Okay. I just listened to three videos,
Uh-huh.
and they were talking that depression, especially depression and anxiety, were diseases. Okay.
Is it?
Well, if they declare those things diseases, that takes away your responsibility to respond adequately. Okay. Well, if they're not diseases, then what are they? Well, they're conditions. Conditions give you responsibility. Diseases take away responsibility. Conditions give you responsibility. Okay. Now we had two children. Now we have the three grandchildren. I'm watching three grandchildren. Not one of them has the disease of depression or anxiety.
Exactly.
Okay. They don't. But if we subject them to conditions that are adverse, that are negative, that are horrible, then we're going to create in them depression, stress, and anxiety. You understand that?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very important. And I'm not lying to you. All you got to do is get on YouTube, and you'll hear these people say, yeah, these things are, especially depression and anxiety, they're diseases. No, they're not. Okay. I'm going against what people at the Mayo Clinic, at John Hopkins University say. I'm telling you, they're not diseases. Okay. They are conditions, because people subject themselves to conditions. And the word that comes with conditions is the word if. That word if, okay, is so important. And you establish that word in your home to establish conditions. And conditions lead you to grow, they lead you to take responsibility for your actions. And so it's very important that we make that distinction. We're not talking about depression, stress, and anxiety as diseases. We're talking about them as conditions. And our responsibility is to make sure that we're establishing amazing conditions for children to grow up in. Okay. But bad marriages don't do that. They establish horrible conditions for kids to grow up in. I've sat with some of these kids, okay, being a high school teacher, being a boys varsity coach and tennis coach and instructor, and then a pastor. I've sat with young people who at one time when they were 5 or 3 or 7 or 10 heard things, saw things, touched things that they weren't supposed to because the conditions were so adverse, so ugly. And so they come out and they go, yeah, I've experienced this. Oh, and I experienced this. Well, no wonder you're feeling depressed. And no wonder you're anxious. No wonder you're stressed. You know what I'm saying?
So what do we do about it
Well,
to
what you're
avoid
going to,
that?
huh?
I guess my question is, sometimes life goes, or we make it go so fast. Both parents are working; they don't want to deal with that condition, and they just try to avoid it. And maybe they're not thinking, I'm gonna spend some money on a life coach. That's not even on their minds or on their budget. What I mean, technology can do wonders in regards to talking to people and obtaining help.
Yeah,
But what happens in a situation like that where they just every day they get up, go to work, they go at each other, yell at each other,
yeah.
or make a bad condition? What happens? Or how can they get help?
Hmm. Well, they can watch the podcast and then they can email and then we can make a contact. Okay. Seriously, this is not a lie. I had a couple come in and say, listen, we're paying $400 for 45 minutes. This was in Huntington Beach, California. As an entrepreneur owning businesses in Corona and Huntington Beach, I
Uh-huh.
had people who came in and when they found out who I was, they wanted to talk with me. Okay. Because they wrote a newspaper article or someone had talked to somebody and said, hey, man, that owner of that business, he's a former pastor or he's a pastor or, and he was a pastor for the Astros. And so they came in. I sat with the couple and they go, $400 for 45 minutes. Is that fair, Francisco?
Probably not.
No.
No.
And so I sat with the guy 6 times and he goes, you've sat with me and you've given me things I've never heard before and you haven't charged me a cent. And I said, well, because somebody, and this goes into what I tell people, somebody wants to make business out of your pain. Okay. That is horrible. I'll pay my mechanic to help fix my car, but I need my car to get to work.
Exactly.
But to be charging people that kind of money when they're already helpless, they're vulnerable, they're in pain, and you take advantage of them. 45 minutes, and he told me that the guy that we're seeing would turn off the clock at 45 minutes and say, "We'll see you next week."
Oh, wow.
$400. That's not a lie. I've had people come and offer me $200. Okay, and I said, "Well, I mean, I have a conscience. I'm sorry. And if it offends anybody who has a degree and whatever, but you know what? It is absolutely wrong to take advantage of people that way. Now, if people want to give out of the kindness of their heart, which some have, they've given because I work through that ministry, then yeah, I mean, of course, I thank them and everything is great, but they're not under any type of pressure to give beyond their means. And so, when people get to a place with depression, stress, and anxiety, that is now making them sick and they feel it, they get referred to take take medicine, to take opioids,
That's what
right?
was going. That's where I was. So yeah, you just hit it right on the nail. I was going to ask you that, but I know you have it on your. And you were
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
send it, huh? So you mean take drugs?
Well, and they basically ingest, okay, and they're basically putting things inside their physiological system, biological system that are going to disrupt the organs. Okay, that's why that woman who called me here in Houston, she says, my organs inside, I don't eat like I'm supposed to. I can't sleep. Okay. it's starting to impact my insides. These are powerful drugs. I need to get off of them,
Exactly.
right? And we ended the show by me referring her to some family members and said, go to a safe place and sleep there, be there, okay, and get away from this toxicity. Because in this case, the husband, which normally is, was, already under some pretty adverse conditions that he established in the home. He made the son sick. He was making the wife sick. And so, uh, eventually she got off of those things because these drugs will have these side effects, and they will end up impacting you in a very, very negative way.
Gracias, Carmen.
Okay.
Carmen says she's enjoying the live, but she must go. So gracias, Carmen Portillo, for joining us. You can finish it
Mhm.
later on. Thank you very much. Pero sí, Juan, it's very important what you say. And yeah, go on. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to say thank you to
Yeah,
Carmen.
yeah. Now remember, there's five aspects to our being. We have the mental, the emotional, okay, the psychological, the spiritual, and the physical. And when those five aspects are disrupted, uh, it's going to cause issues inside of us. Okay. You don't even have to be on drugs. You can get those pains in your stomach. You can get those aches on your shoulders, on your hips, and your legs, you know, the back of your head. They call them migraines. And so you begin to feel these mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual drawbacks in the physical way in your body.
Exactly.
Okay. And so, how do I know that? First of all, because I've experienced it. Okay. I told a friend of mine, I will never, ever forgive you. I lost 10 pounds in 1 month. And my mom says, te hiciste blanco, estás pálido. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué te está pasando? What is happening to you? Your color, you're discoloring. And I didn't tell her. And it's because I had this toxic relationship with a friend of mine that was now impacting the way I was eating, the way I was sleeping. And so when I became a coach, I felt anxiety. I used to get twitches in my eyes, twitches on my side of my stomach here because I was anxious. So I'm going to explain the causes of these three things. So, what is it that causes it? And I'm going to say something very, very important because I went to the Mayo Clinic and I said, what does the Mayo Clinic say about what causes depression, what causes stress, and what causes anxiety? Okay. What do you think the answers are?
Tell me.
Depression. This is what they say. These are their words. It is not known exactly what causes depression. Okay. This is their words. It is not known exactly what causes depression. This is the Mayo Clinic. You're talking about a staff of doctors and intellectuals and everything. But remember, they know each other. They don't know. I know the one who knows everything, and he explains everything, and he says where depression comes from. I know where depression comes from. Why? Because I experienced it. And I experienced it at a time when I was very disobedient. So jot this down. Depression is caused by disobedience. The Mayo Clinic says they don't know what causes depression, but disobedience. All I have to do is do things outside of the order that I'm supposed to be in, and I will eventually become sad, melancholic, and then get into a state of depression if I continue, whether it's abusing a person, abusing a drug, abusing. I mean, I could get depressed if I abused chocolate ice cream, which is my favorite. You know, I mean, if you abuse anything, and I don't listen to my body, I don't listen to my mental state, my emotional state, my psychological state, my spiritual state. If I don't listen and I continue to be disobedient, I will eventually fall into a state of depression. Right? Now, we're going to skip over to anxiety. Guess what they say about what causes anxiety?
They don't know.
The causes of anxiety disorders aren't fully understood. These are their words. The causes of anxiety disorder are not fully understood. This is what they say. Okay. I mean, you're talking about some of the most learned people in the world, and they don't know. Well, I know because I actually lived out anxiety. Anxiety comes from you attempting to control things that you can't. Okay. Basically, you make yourself God Almighty, and we can't. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
We can control. Right now, my wife is out at the mall with my daughters. I can't control anything and everything that happens out there. But people get anxiety because they start wringing their hands and go, what is she doing? What's my wife doing over there? Is she talking with anybody? Is somebody talking with her? Is somebody, what if this happens? What if they get in a car accident? What if this? What is this? And so they're always doing the what if, what if, what if, what if, what if.
What if you
And
finish
they
at 10
create, huh? Yeah. What if she, what if she charges $2,000 today? But it's just constant worrying. Okay. And this is two words. Worrying immobilizes as opposed to being concerned. Concern mobilizes. Hey, I'm concerned that you might overspend on the card. I'm just texting you or calling you to just remind you, hey, we do have a limit. Oh, okay, honey. Boom. That's a concern. The worry is, what if, what if, what if, what if? And so they're going on and on. And so you are creating panic. Okay. A friend of mine who got an anxiety attack had to pull off the road. And he says, I couldn't drive. I almost blanked out. I said, wow, you know, I said, that's pretty sad that you are that worried that you end up putting yourself in an anxiety attack situation.
Exactly.
So, you know, so that's the depression, the anxiety, the Mayo Clinic, they don't know where it comes from. Depression comes from disobedience. Anxiety comes from over worrying, immobilizing yourself, okay, where you end up getting panic attacks. Now, the stress, they say a lot of things about stress, but basically in a very simple way, this is where stress comes from, okay? Stress comes from unrealistic expectations, okay? I was a boys varsity basketball coach at 4 high schools, and every time they asked me if we were going to win, I would say, I don't know if we're going to win. But I am going to make sure that you understand something. I can guarantee you that we're going to get better. Okay. We can get better every day and still not win. Okay. So I don't have any stress. I don't have any pressure to win. Okay. My responsibility is to make certain that my players get better. And if they're better at the end of the season than they were when we started, I'm happy. Okay. There's no stress for me to be an amazing husband and my wife to be an amazing wife. All we should be thinking is, are we getting better? Is our relationship better today than it was yesterday? You know, is it better this year than last year? We're celebrating 40 years of marriage this year. Is
Congratulations.
it better? I mean, I've never ever enjoyed our marriage as much as I'm enjoying it now. It is absolutely amazing. Have we gotten better? Have we improved? Yes. There's no stress in that. But when people start using those absolute words with you, Francisco, you have to call this game in the most amazing way. Okay, this is a World Series game, Francisco. You better do it, Francisco. And Francisco goes, okay, okay, I got to do it. You're stressing yourself out as opposed to just let Francisco do what Francisco does. You know, I'm sure you're a lot better now at doing what you do than you were when you first started, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember how you were when you first started?
I don't even want to listen to those tapes.
But that's the beauty of it, is
Exactly.
that, you know, I got a chance to see you at your best, but you're getting better every day still, right? Well, there's no stress in that.
Exactly.
You know, that's very healthy to get better. Oh,
And to
Your
work to
child.
get better. I have to work on getting better.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing every day. Is
Going
you're
towards the
working to get
path,
better.
towards going towards it. Yeah,
Yeah. Isabella's going to college. All you want her to do is become a better student,
exactly.
right? You're not telling her you better get an A. You can't get anything less than an A. No, no, just become a better student every day. You know. Oh, there's no stress in that. There's no pressure in that. But that's where stress comes from, and people put it on themselves, or people allow people to put it on them. I don't allow people to put any stress on me, and I don't put any stress on myself. But anyway, that's the dea, the depression, the stress, and the anxiety. And if you don't know why you went, you lose. If you don't know why you lose twice. And so, what I'm giving you here is for you to know why you win, because then if you know that, you're going to win twice. And if you know why you lose, you're going to win. So, you never lose.
Now, but Juan, very, very educational, very well explained. Again, if you
Hmm.
want to contact Juan via email, Juan at musicandmessage.org, which is his organization. And also you can follow more talks with Juan and making connections with Juan Alaniz. Juan, pues, very, muy enriquecedor lo que nos dices. I just want to thank you again.
Hmm.
And I got to watch this podcast again to take it. But very, very, very well explained, very simple explanation, but again, very rich in
Hmm.
regard to how it will fulfill all of us. Thank you very much, Juan. Con qué nos dejas? I mean, you've
Hmm.
talked a lot, but how would you close this podcast, this message that you just gave us? You know, I like the way you
Hmm.
put DEA, DEA, but then explain every aspect of it. But what do you leave us with?
Well, this is the thing. One of my players asked me one time, they go, Coach, when are we going to win a championship? And this was at the last high school, at Turlock High School. And I go, when we learn to make better decisions than our opponents, okay? When we make better decisions than our opponents, we will always have the opportunity to win more than our opponents. And so when you hear things like this and you want to learn them and you say, I want to practice making better decisions. I want to practice making better decisions. Then you're going to get better. You know what I'm saying? And so that is what I do in explaining to people that you need to practice making good decisions. And our decision making in our marriage is great. Our decision making with our children got better. Our decision making with my parents got better. I had to make decisions with my parents to take them out by myself, for example, to eat, you know? So you start making decisions, and these decisions, guess what they change? Conditions.
Conditions.
And you start changing the conditions. Oh, so one day my mom said to me en español, mijito, ¿por qué tratas tú tan bien a Josie? Eres porque es psicólogo, ¿verdad? Y dice, no, ma, es que he aprendido cómo tratarla bien y estoy practicando, ¿verdad?
Wow.
So when she asked me, why do you treat your wife so good? I just said, because I am practicing treating her good. And I'm getting better every day at treating her good. She tells me when I don't. And she goes, can you tell your brothers about this? And I said, Ama, they won't listen to me, but if they do, I'm there to teach my brothers to treat their wives the way that they're supposed to be treated, to
Exactly.
serve them and to die to them and to let them know I'm here for you. Okay. So that's practice. It's just decisions that you make every day
In order to make better conditions. All right.
in order to establish better conditions. And so if the children are born in amazing conditions, guess what they become?
Yeah, amazing.
Amazing children. You know, I mean, I look at Isabella, and Isabella looks like a confident young woman to me,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
very confident. Correct.
Well, I don't have to go too far to ask questions. All I got to do is look at Larissa and look at Francisco, and I go, hmm, okay, that's why she's a confident young woman, you know? And so practice making good decisions. And I've given them some tools here. Uh, the notes, I don't know if we could put those up someplace and They could be there, they could have the notes, but they're more than welcome to ask questions through the email.
Again, yeah, you can reach Juan through email and look at more of his content on YouTube. Juan, well, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. I know it won't be the last time, and I like that we're using different settings. So this one was live, and again,
Yeah.
thank you very much for being with us. And we always learn, siempre aprendemos de Juan Alaniz siempre. Así que muchísimas
Gracias, Francisco.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Y recuerden, look for Juan Alaniz, send him an email, or look for him in his YouTube channel. Again, thank you very much for joining us in this live podcast, Beyond the Mic podcast. I am Francisco Romero. Hasta la próxima.